I need to confess something to you, and it's going to make me look stupid. For 3 summers, I treated my lawn for grubs in September. Every single year. I'd see the yellow patches show up, I'd panic, I'd drive to the store, grab whatever bag said grub killer on the front, dump it on the lawn, and water it in feeling like I'd handled it. And every single year, by October, I had dead grass anyway. I thought the product was junk. I thought I'd gotten a bad batch. I even switched brands twice, convinced I just hadn't found the right one yet. Here's what I didn't know, and what almost nobody watching this video knows either. The grubs that killed my lawn in September were already living under my grass in June. Not as grubs yet, as eggs. Thousands of them, sitting about 2 inches under the soil, on a countdown that had already started before I ever noticed a problem. By the time you see the damage, the yellow patches, the spongy turf that peels up like old carpet, you are already 8 to 10 weeks too late. And the window to actually stop this thing closes in July. I learned this the hard way in Zeeland, Michigan from a guy named Walter Schubert, who ran a small lawn maintenance crew for almost 30 years before he retired. Walter told me something that stuck with me. He said, "Larry, everybody wants to fight the fire. Nobody wants to check the wiring in June." And once he explained the timeline to me, I understood exactly what he meant. So today I'm going to walk you through what's happening underground week by week, why the calendar matters more than the product you buy, and a 2-minute test you can run with a bucket of water and dish soap that tells you whether you actually have a grub problem. Because here's the part the lawn chemical industry will never tell you. Most lawns that get treated for grubs never needed treating in the first place. And most lawns that desperately needed treatment got hit on exactly the wrong week, with exactly the wrong product, and the homeowner walked away blaming the bag instead of the calendar. Let's fix both of those mistakes right now. Start with what those beetles were doing all June. You saw them. The metallic green and copper ones chewing your rose leaves into lace, or the tan, clumsy ones thumping into your porch light after dark. Japanese beetles, masked chafers, European chafers, June bugs. Different beetles, same underlying story. Above ground, they're a nuisance. Below ground, they're the entire problem. Because the female beetle isn't really there for your roses. She's feeding, mating, and hunting for a place to lay eggs, and she is picky about real estate. She'll fly low over the lawn, land, and burrow down a couple of inches to test the soil. Dry and hard she leaves. Moist, soft, and warm she stays. A single female lays somewhere around 40 to 60 eggs, usually in small batches over a few weeks, and she doesn't scatter them across the neighborhood. Beetles concentrate. Dozens of them will settle into the same 50 square feet of the best-looking lawn on the block. So which lawn is the best real estate? The green one, the watered one, the one somebody's been babying through a hot, dry stretch. That is the uncomfortable truth Iowa State University Extension has documented for years. Grub eggs are extremely sensitive to soil moisture. They absorb water from the surrounding soil and swell before hatching. In genuinely dry soil, a large share of those eggs simply desiccate and die. Nature runs the treatment for you, for free, which means the guy down the street who lets his lawn go tan and dormant in July isn't losing. He's accidentally running an ancient pest control strategy, and your beautiful, emerald, well-irrigated lawn is the nursery. I'm not telling you to torch your lawn out of spite, but it explains something a lot of homeowners find baffling: why the best-kept yard on the street is so often the one that gets shredded by fall. Now here's where the timing gets interesting, and where nearly everyone I've ever talked to gets it wrong, myself included, for 3 straight years. Those eggs don't hatch immediately. Depending on soil temperature and species, they sit for about 2 weeks. Peak egg laying runs through the back half of June into July, which puts peak hatch roughly mid-July through early August across most of the country. Warmer states earlier, cooler states later. And what comes out is not the fat, white, C-shaped grub you've seen in photos. What comes out is a first instar grub, a tiny, translucent thing smaller than a grain of rice, with a mouth that can barely handle a root hair. Remember that phrase, first instar, because it's the difference between winning and losing this entire fight. That tiny grub is soft, shallow, sitting in the top inch or two of soil, with almost no defenses. Over the following weeks it molts into a second instar, then a third, the big one, sometimes an inch long, curled up with a hard head capsule and a body that has become genuinely tough to kill. Here's the mechanism nobody at the garden center explains to you. Insecticides don't work equally against a rice grain grub and a fingernail-sized grub. Not even close. Penn State Extension research on turf insect control shows control rates on properly timed applications running as high as 90% against small, shallow grubs in late July, and dropping to 40% or worse against mature grubs in late September. Same lawn, same bag, different week. The product didn't fail, the calendar did. I want to introduce you to Dale Kowalski, a homeowner outside Springfield, Missouri, who I talked to a couple years back. Dale had done everything right by store shelf logic, bought a well-reviewed Grub product, applied it in October when he found the damage, watered it in like the label said. Total failure. Dale wasn't a bad homeowner. Dale was a homeowner fighting third instar grubs in October with a curative product, which is a little like showing up to put out a house fire with a squirt gun. It's not that the water doesn't work, it's that you brought the wrong tool to the wrong moment. That brings us to the second timing trap. Walk into any garden center in July and you'll see bags labeled Grub Control sitting right next to bags labeled Grub Killer. To a homeowner, those sound like the same product with different marketing. They are not. Preventers go down before or right around hatch and sit in the root zone waiting. Some, like products built on chlorantraniliprole, move slowly through soil and want to go down in late spring, May into June, so they're already in position before eggs pop. Others, in the neonicotinoid family like imidacloprid, are more of a mid-June to mid-July application. Both rules share one truth. They are useless as a rescue in October. Curatives are the opposite. Fast-acting, short-lived, built for grubs already there and already eating. That's your September or October option. But it's damage control, not prevention, and it hits hardest against grubs that are still small, which loops you right back to the same lesson. If it's July right now, you're standing in the one window where you actually get to choose. In September, you can only react. Watering isn't optional with these treatments. It's part of the product. Almost every granular grub treatment needs about ½ inch of irrigation right after application to wash the active ingredient off the granule, past the thatch layer, and down to where the grubs actually live. Skip that step and you've sprinkled expensive gravel on your lawn. It sits in the thatch, breaks down in sunlight, and does nothing. I've talked to people convinced a product simply doesn't work, when what actually happened is they applied on a Saturday, it didn't rain for 9 days, and the whole application degraded before it ever reached the root zone. Same story with a thick thatch layer. Anything over about ½ an inch acts like a sponge that soaks up treatment before it reaches soil. Before you buy anything, let's find out if you even have a problem. This is Harry's flush test, and it's the thing I wish I'd done before I ever bought a single bag. Grab a gallon of water, mix in about 2 tablespoons of liquid dish soap, and slowly pour it over a 2-foot by 2-foot patch, ideally near where you saw beetles hanging around in June. Pour it slowly so it soaks in rather than runs off, then watch for 5 to 10 minutes. The soap irritates anything living in the soil and thatch, so it surfaces. Slender, straw-colored caterpillars mean sod webworm. Tiny black and white insects at the soil line mean chinch bugs. Fat gray-brown caterpillars mean cutworms or armyworms. All of these mimic grub damage from a distance, and none of them are treated the same way. In mid to late July, you may see tiny pale grubs coming up through the wet grass. That's your confirmation that hatch is happening in your yard this week. But I'll be honest with you about a limitation here, because Texas A&M AgriLife research notes soap flushing is great for surface feeders in the thatch, but less reliable for grubs living deeper in the soil, especially in dry or compacted ground. So pair it with the definitive test. Cut 3 sides of a 1-foot square with a spade, about 3 inches deep, and peel the turf back like a flap. Break up the soil underneath with your fingers and count what you find, because that number is everything. Here's what nobody tells you. A healthy lawn tolerates grubs. It always has. A vigorous, well-rooted lawn can carry roughly 5 grubs per square foot without you ever noticing a thing. Cornell University turf research puts the damage threshold for Japanese beetle grubs around 8 to 10 per square foot. European chafers can cause damage at lower numbers because they feed longer, into cooler weather. Cut 3 or 4 sample squares around the yard, and if you're averaging 1 or 2 grubs, put the bag down. You don't have a grub problem. You have a lawn with grubs in it, which describes essentially every lawn in North America. If you're pulling 8, 12, 15 out of a single square foot, now we're talking. And check several spots because grub populations are patchy, the same way the beetles were patchy when they laid. One more sign, and it shows up before the grass ever changes color. Skunks, raccoons, crows, starlings tearing up your turf at night, flipping chunks of sod, digging shallow, ragged holes. That animal isn't confused. It smells grubs, and it's better at finding them than you are. Grab a handful of grass in a suspect patch and pull. Healthy turf fights back. Grub-damaged turf lifts off the soil with zero resistance, like a rug. Now let's talk about what to actually do. starting with the option most people have never heard of, beneficial nematodes. These are microscopic roundworms that live in soil naturally and hunt insect larvae. The species you want for grubs is Heterorhabditis bacteriophora, sold as HB. That name matters enormously because most nematodes sold in garden centers are Steinernema species, which work well against fungus gnats and fleas, but are mediocre against white grubs. HB hunts differently. It actively cruises through soil looking for a host, finds a grub, enters through a natural opening, and releases bacteria it carries in its own gut. That bacteria multiplies and kills the grub within a couple of days. The nematodes feed on the bacteria and grub tissue, reproduce, and a new generation emerges to hunt again. You're releasing a predator, not spraying a chemical, which is why it's safe around kids, pets, earthworms, and pollinators. But nematodes are living organisms, and that changes the rules. Auburn University Extension guidance is blunt about the failure mode here. Most people who say nematodes didn't work killed them before they ever reached the soil. Apply in the evening or on a cloudy day, because UV light destroys them fast. Water before and after application. Since nematodes swim through the film of moisture around soil particles, dry soil is a wall to them. Check that they shipped cold and haven't been sitting on a hot porch. Applied correctly at hatch, late July into August, HB nematodes can be seriously effective. If you'd rather go conventional, the rule is simple. Preventer now if it's early to mid-July, watered in immediately. Curative in September if you've already found damage, go quickly, water it in, and accept you're doing cleanup rather than prevention. And the free option nobody markets, because nobody makes money selling you nothing. If you don't run automatic irrigation and you're comfortable letting your lawn go dormant, a dry July naturally kills a large share of grub eggs before they hatch. Dormant grass isn't dead grass. It greens back up when rain returns. Longer term, the real defense is roots. Grubs kill lawns by eating roots, so a lawn with roots 6 inches deep survives a population that would flatten a lawn with roots 2 inches deep. Deep, infrequent watering builds those roots. Daily light sprinkling builds shallow ones and keeps the top inch of soil permanently moist, which, as we've covered, is exactly the condition beetles go looking for. The same habit that weakens your lawn is the habit advertising it. So here's what it all comes down to. The grub damage you'll see in September was decided in July. It was decided by which lawn was the moistest when the beetles went looking, and by whether anything was waiting in the soil when those eggs hatched. Everything after that is cleanup. Walter Schubert was right. Check the wiring in June. Don't wait for the fire. Go cut your square, peel it back, count what's under there, and you'll actually know where you stand, instead of guessing like I did for 3 summers straight. Tell me in the comments, have you ever pulled up a patch of grass that just lifted off the soil like carpet? I read every comment. See you in the next one.